This video is brought to you by MUBI, a curated streaming service that screens a variety of interesting, critically acclaimed cinema from all around the world. Get a free month at mubi.com/indepthcine. As we saw in a previous video, there are many reasons why in some photographic situations, prime lenses are a better choice than zoom lenses. The fixed focal length or magnification of prime lenses provide a more considered perspective when choosing a focal length, better overall optical quality, a larger aperture, a smaller size, and better close focusing capabilities. In this video, let's flip things in favor of our variable focal length friends by unpacking 5 reasons why zoom lenses are better than primes. The first reason for choosing to use a zoom lens goes without saying. It allows you to do a zoom move in a shot. Most shots in cinema and other kinds of film content shoot with a fixed level of magnification and do not zoom during a shot. I think this is in part due to the traditional language of cinema built by a legacy of many older films which were photographed with prime lenses. Before usable cinema zooms were widely manufactured and prime lenses were the de facto choice. However, during the 1970s and 1980s, using in-camera zooms to push into a shot or pull out wider without moving the camera gained more popularity amongst filmmakers. There are many stylistic motivations behind using zoom movement. It can be used to slowly pull out and reveal more information in a shot until we see the full scope of the landscape. It can be used as a slightly kitsch crash zoom, where the camera rapidly punches in to reveal a character, to emphasize a certain line, or land a comedic punchline. Because of their flexibility and ease of use, which we'll come to later, zooms have also been widely used when shooting documentaries, particularly fly-on-the-wall type docus. In some films, this type of zoom movement is extrapolated from these documentary conventions in order to lend a visual style of realism associated with the documentary look, or even to mock this look for comedic emphasis. The list of reasons to zoom within a shot goes on, and has different stylistic or emotional impacts depending on the context in which it's used. It should be noted though that most filmmakers are careful about not overusing zooms, as they can easily become a bit tired, distracting and cliched unless they form part of an overall considered visual style. Of course, pushing in with a lens requires a zoom, but what about those films that don't use any in-shot zooms, but still decide to shoot on zoom lenses? Another reason cinematographers may use a zoom is because they make it easy to precisely frame a shot. When you shoot with a prime lens's fixed focal length on the camera and you want to change the width of the frame, you need to physically move the position of the camera. This is easy when you're shooting handheld with a little mirrorless camera, but when you're using a hefty cinema rig on a head and a set of legs that is so heavy that it requires a grip team each time you move and level the camera, using zooms becomes more appealing. With primes, you may need to slightly reposition a frame by moving the camera forward 6 inches, realize this is too far forward, and then have to move the camera back again 3 inches until that light stand is just out of frame. With a zoom lens, you can just change the focal length from 50mm to 45mm without moving the camera or tripod. A great example of this happens on most car shoots. I've worked as a camera assistant on loads of car commercials, and about 99% of the time, when using a Russian arm to shoot moving vehicles, DPs choose a zoom lens over a prime lens. It's far easier and more practical to use a wireless motor to adjust the zoom on the barrel of the lens to find the correct frame from inside the Russian armed vehicle than it is to get the driver of the vehicle to keep repositioning the car a couple of meters on every run until the frame is perfect. It is also easier to find the correct position for the camera without needing to move it when using wider primes, either with a Pentafinder, a Viewfinder app, or just based on the experience of the DP. But when you use longer focal lengths like a 135mm or 180mm prime lens, because of the lens compression, it becomes infinitely more difficult to find the correct frame without needing to move the camera. There are also less prime focal length options at the longer end, which we'll talk about later. Therefore, for telephoto shots, zooms are regularly used for their ability to punch in or out until the correct frame is found. With an increased precision in framing shots comes a faster setup time. On a film set, time very much equals money. The quicker you can set up and shoot each shot, the less crew overtime, rental days on gear, and location fees you have to pay. When you're working on a tight budget without the possibilities of extended overtime or extra pickup days, taking longer to set up shots means that the director is afforded to film less takes, with less time to craft the performances of actors or set up choreographed action. Using zoom lenses speeds up production in a few ways. For one, if you shoot everything with a single zoom lens, it means less time spent changing lenses, swapping out matte boxes, and recalibrating focus motors. As we mentioned previously, it also means that grip teams don't need to reposition heavy and time-consuming rigs, like laying dolly tracks. If the track was laid a little bit too far forward, the operator can just zoom a little bit wider on the lens to find the frame, rather than starting over from square one and relaying the tracks. Another practical example is when using a crane or a techno crane. If you use a 35mm prime lens on the camera, balance it on a remote head, perfectly position the arm, and then realize that the lens is not wide enough and you need a 24mm focal length instead, the grip team needs to bring down the arm, the camera team needs to switch out the lens, the Libre head technician needs to rebalance the head with the weight of the new lens, and finally the grip team then brings the crane back into the correct position. All of this could take 10 minutes or more. If instead the DP used a zoom lens with a wireless focus motor on the zoom, this change would take less than 10 seconds. 10 minutes may not sound like a lot, but if this keeps happening throughout the day, this can quickly add up to an hour or two of wasted shooting time, which is both expensive, means less footage will be shot, and therefore gives the director less precious takes to work with in the edit. A prime lens set usually covers a fair amount of different focal length options on the wide end, but when it comes to telephoto options beyond about 100mm, their selection is usually very limited. For this reason, DPs that like shooting with long focal lengths that compress the backgrounds in shots often hire a zoom. For example, the Arri Allura can punch in all the way to 250mm, while the longest focal length available on a set of modern cinema lenses such as the Arri Master Primes is 150mm. So for cinematographers who want to use long telephoto lenses, zooms are usually a better option. Many zooms also offer an overall greater range of focal lengths. For example, an Angenieux 12:1 zoom offers a field of view all the way from a wide 24mm lens up to an extended 290mm compressed field of view. For shoots that are in remote areas or in locations which cannot be accessed by a camera truck, carrying around a full set of spherical primes in 3 or 4 different lens cases is far more logistically challenging for the crew than just putting a single zoom lens on the camera and walking it into set. This makes zooms far more flexible and practical when compared to primes, especially sets of older vintage prime lenses such as the Zeiss Super Speeds that only come in 6 focal length options from 18mm to 85mm. The final reason may seem a little counterintuitive because when you compare the price of a single prime lens with that of a single zoom lens, the zoom lens will almost always be more expensive. However, prime lenses are almost never bought or rented as individual units. They come in sets, such as a set of 6 lenses or a set of 16 lenses. When the rental price or buying price of a full set of primes is tallied up, it is almost always more than that of a comparable single zoom lens that covers the same amount of focal lengths. Therefore, when the budget of a shoot is a bit tight, it may come down to either pleading with the gear rental house to break up a lens set into a very small selection of 2 or 3 primes that cover a limited range of focal lengths, or hiring a single zoom that you can use to cover every field of view that is required for the shoot. Since you're watching this video, it probably means that, like me, you're a big fan of cinema. If you're looking for a streaming service that has a great collection of older art film classics, hard to find documentaries, and contemporary work from modern auteurs, look no further than the sponsor of this video, MUBI. MUBI is my favorite curated streaming service, where you can watch a rotating selection of interesting films from all around the world that are handpicked by their curators. MUBI premieres a new movie every day, which makes it feel kind of like you're attending a film festival from the comfort of your own couch and ensures you'll never struggle to find new, critically acclaimed content. For example, I recently watched the original 1960 version of The HOUSEMAID, one of the most acclaimed Korean films of all time, that was a major influence and inspiration for Bong Joon-ho's highly regarded Parasite. MUBI is the only streaming platform I've used where it's easy to access these kinds of highly regarded movies from the past that fall a bit outside of mainstream cinema. If this is up your alley, then I highly recommend giving MUBI a go. You can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/indepthcine. That's mubi.com/indepthcine for a whole month of great cinema for free. So that brings us to the end of this video. If you're interested in the counter argument, you can always check out the prior video I made on why primes are better than zooms. As always, a final thanks to all the kind patrons who keep the channel going with their support. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.